Crucially, you could collapse TPUSA down to nothing, but the influential voice that is Charlie Kirk, he would remain. They tried this with Candace Owens. Let's get rid of her at Daily Wire. She's now bigger than she was. People hate you. You're inhumane. You're a liar. Imagine what would have happened if they tried it with Charlie Kirk. You get rid of him at TPUSA, you can't run that risk that he becomes bigger than he was. Again, let's build our little what's going on in the world of Charlie Kirk before he dies timeline. May 2nd, he sends letter to BB. You're not a man. You're abdicating your responsibility. I don't want to do this anymore. So you can't tell me that I'm crazy for suggesting that Charlie Kirk might have died because of his known opposition to conflict in Iran, his very logical, rational, reasoned, passionate defense of no conflict in Iran, when they were absolutely planning conflict in Iran at the time. When I was on the Julian Dory show, he said, why do you think Charlie Kirk died? I said, the Iran War. He said, well, there was no Iran War at the time. Well, no, there wasn't, but there was shortly afterwards. And according to Patrick Bet-David, they knew there was about to be one. And the last thing they needed was some 6'5" pipsqueak who they had invested hundreds of millions of dollars in, maybe up to $1 billion. Given access to the White House, walking in and out of the Oval Office, giving speeches all over college campuses, using their money. By their money, I mean Jewish donor money, out there opposing the Iran war. They didn't need that. They didn't need that. So whatever the offer was that was made to Charlie, I would have to believe it came with a contingency that you cannot oppose the Iran war. Maybe you even have to support it. You're probably going to have to support what we're about to do over there. Maybe one of the offers was, we want you to support Patrick Bet-David for the head of Iran. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I think these are, in the words of the court in Utah, reasonable inferences. I think these are reasonable inferences. We have a right to make reasonable inferences when we look at the totality of what was going on. Well, what else was going on at the time? It wasn't just the Patrick Bet-David thing. Something kicked off the Patrick Bet-David conversation. This is not the one you highlighted. But that's okay. Is the one you highlighted in here? No. But we'll get through it. All right. You remember this letter, ladies and gentlemen. You remember this letter from the desk of Charlie Kirk. This is the letter Charlie Kirk wrote to Benjamin Netanyahu in May of 2025, just 4 months before he died. He starts out talking about his joy of advocating for Israel. That's been one of his greatest joys as a Christian, is advocating for Israel, forming alliances with Jews to fight and protect Judeo-Christian civilization. Then he said he spent months analyzing trends and debating ideas that could help you and your country push back against these developments. And these developments he's talking about is kind of the erosion of support for Israel. Anti-Israel sentiment can undermine support for Israel, undermine American support for Israel. What's the purpose of this letter? The purpose of this letter is to lay out our concerns and outline potential remedies. Ladies and gentlemen, that line right there may have gotten him killed. He might qualify it by saying, oh, this is from a place of deep love for Israel. But then he goes on to be brutally honest with those you love. Israel is losing the information war and needs a communication intervention. Then he mentions Easter. Oh, that goes well with the audience. Started to compose this letter to you on Easter. On my recent campus tours, half the questions I get are about Israel, and they're all negative. I often spend half my time on these campus tours defending Jews in Israel, and I'm proud to do it because I love these people. Sometimes it feels like I'm defending Israel in public more than your own government. Guys, put yourself in the shoes of the Beepster. Put yourself in the shoes of the Jewish donors who had invested tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in Charlie Kirk. Why? Primarily for him to support Israel, if we're being honest. And now he's saying, why are you guys making me do your dirty work? It's costing me on campus. It's costing me my street cred. Can't you imagine BB looking at him and saying, your street cred, you're nothing without me, pal. You're nothing without my donors. You're nothing without my money. And by my money, I mean the donors that are good with him. Can you imagine receiving this letter? And it's almost like a distant uncle who's been supporting his kind of nephew who's sort of been doing his own thing, and you've given him hundreds of thousands of dollars, and he comes back to you and he's like, all right, I'm done with you. You should have been doing this whole time. And you're like, wait a minute, I've provided you a great salary, benefits. I've helped you make a name for yourself. And you're telling me you want out and you don't want to do this anymore, and it's on me, and I've somehow made a mistake by making you rich and famous? That's the role you want to play? You think you would have been in the Oval Office but for people that support me, the people that support my cause? You think any of this would have been happening around you? No, you little pipsqueak. You'd still be running around sleeping with Bill Montgomery in hotel rooms. You'd still be running around probably starving to death. No one's ever heard of you, begging for $5,000 and $10,000 to eat the next month. And we've made you worth tens of millions of dollars personally. We've gotten you in business deals with the White House and the president's son. We've made you a multi-time New York Times best-selling author. You now have a successful podcast, and you want to come to me, you ungrateful little pipsqueak? That's how I think BB took it. That's how I think he took it. We go on because this is in May before he dies, so I think it's important context. My experience on college campuses matches a recent Harvard-Harris poll reported 48% of 18 to 24-year-old Americans support Hamas over Israel. Even in young MAGA circles, Israel is losing support. We're getting huge crowds of 4,000 to 5,000 students on some of my college tours. Visits are becoming like a rock concert atmosphere. Yet on these campus visits, I'm constantly confronted with. And then he lists off the worst things Mr. Netanyahu could possibly hear about his own country. Like, this is a list of questions you would never want to raise with this man. It's a list of questions you never want to raise when all of your donors support that guy. That is not where you want to go.
Hey, I put the highlighted one in there if you want to put that one on the screen.
Yeah, I can do. I'm going to drop this and put the highlighted. There it is. Thank you. So let me open this back up. I kind of like the way I was rolling through it. I was kind of getting after it. Okay. I'm often asked, why is Israel killing so many innocent civilians in Gaza? That's a tough question for the Beepster when he has plans for that area. He doesn't want to hear that question. He certainly doesn't want to hear that 90% of younger generations get their news from social media, and there's very little pushback or fact-checking by the Israeli government and or pro-Israel supporters in media. Because he's probably thinking, the recipient of this letter, the prime minister, is probably thinking, yeah, why would we? That's what we're paying you to do, you moron. That's what we're paying you to do. You're a little too big for your britches right now, Mr. Chuck. A little too big for your britches. I strongly suggest Israel is not always I strongly suggest Israel not always depend on subcontracting their information war efforts to surrogates in America. Mr. Prime Minister, I urge you to revamp your information warfare strategy from top to bottom. Now, when we close this letter, we're going to open up some things that have been done in the immediate aftermath of Charlie Kirk's death. The immediate aftermath, where they precisely quadruple down on this strategy of subcontracting their information war efforts to surrogates in America. In other words, yeah, we got your letter. We're not going to do any of this. Like, we don't don't have any interest in this. And if you don't want to be on our team, fine. Good luck. Good luck. Because it sounds to me like this letter is, I don't want to be on your team anymore. I don't want to be on your team anymore. Sometimes the impression is given Israel thinks everyone hates them. So why care about winning over hearts and minds? If there's any truth to this impression, I urge you to consider that social media and podcasts is where your fight for the hearts and minds of the younger generation. Obviously, all this negative Israel propaganda on social media easily translates into pro-Hamas, free Palestine sentiment on many college campuses. Do you think Beebster wants unsolicited recommendations from a guy his supporters have made and given everything he is? Do you think he's ready for a student becomes the master moment? Let me tell you something, old man. Here's how you need to run your country. Here's how you need to run your people. Here's how you need to run your information warfare campaign, if I do say so myself. Can you imagine you hire a subcontractor to come to your house and put a roof on? And then they come in and you pay them all this money and they get halfway done and they're like, hey, I think it's a bad look. The neighbors are making fun of you. They're calling you a pansy. They think you don't care about your roof. You're just subcontracting it out. They've not seen you up there busting up your knees. Here's what I think you should do. I know you paid me 30 grand to put that roof on, but here's what I think you should. You need to get up there, get a ladder. You need to get a tall ladder. And you need to get one of them little elevator things that they pull up the ladder, and that's how you're going to get the asphalt shingles up there, you see. And then you need to put the asphalt shingles on the roof, and then you need to get a nail gun. Bang, 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 bang. And you need to put them in. Then you need to measure out some gutters, some downspouts. Probably got to buy a truck for that. But I paid you to do this. No, this is why I paid you. I gave you money. You are a roofer. That's what roofers do. Yeah, but it's giving the wrong impression to the neighbors. They're calling you a pansy. They're saying you're not very manly. You're the kind of guy that hires someone to put your roof on. Yeah, I don't care. Put the roof on. I need a roof. And I'd cut big checks to you to put a roof on. Don't walk in my house with your dirty boots and the little asphalt shingle trimmings stuck all over your fingernails and tell me to build my own roof. I paid you to build a roof. I think that's how the prime minister received this letter. Wait a minute. That's what I'm paying you to do. Why are you telling me to do what I'm paying you to do? We've been paying you to do this, sir. We've paid you a lot of money to do this. And in the process, we've made you a very wealthy man. Made you a very wealthy man. And you've parlayed the money we've given you into multiplying it many times over in your personal life. In other words, we paid you to go around on college campuses and support Israel, and you parlayed that fame into a podcast and books and investment deals and private equity and real estate deals. Why don't you get back out there and pick the water bucket back up and start carrying it again? Don't tell me to pick it up. I paid you to carry that water around. Pick it up. Pick up the water bucket. For starters, you need a rapid response media team. He had one. It was called TPUSA. President Trump does this very effectively on social media with his own account and White House Rapid Response 47 team. Honestly, I don't even know if you have a press secretary. Mr. Kirk, may I make a suggestion? Let's not make fun of his media efforts. I strongly recommend putting together a team of pro-Israel experts who can fact-check misinformation in real time from Israel. And I can see him reading this letter and think, that's what I'm paying you to do. Like, the people who have a problem with this are the people on college campuses. You're the guy on college campuses. They're raising these issues to you. You need to fact-check this information in real time from Phoenix, or from the college campus. This is why I pay you the big bucks, big boy. Israel needs to take the lead in this effort. No more dependence on subcontractors. Again, we're going to show you in a minute how I think this letter might have contributed to Charlie Kirk's demise, because the moment he was demised, they actually quadrupled down on not taking the lead on this effort and depending on subcontractors. We'll show you that in a minute. You need something perhaps like an Israel Truth Network, which can include social media channels and a one-stop source of information website where, for example, all the negative Israel questions I get can be thoroughly debunked. Well, then build one, Charlie. If that's what you think is needed, take some of that tens of millions of dollars you get every year and build the freaking website. You have 700 TPUSA employees that are paid for with donor dollars. Where do you think those donor dollars come from, Chuck? Where do you think those donor dollars come from? If you think that's something that needs to be done, you should get on it. Sounds like you're not doing your job. Let Israelis explain in their own words how Israel's a pluralistic society, a free country with elected leaders. Why not show how your hospitals take care of wounded terrorists? Clips of Israel dropping flyers from airplanes warning Gazan civilians to get out of harm's way. It would have been nice to see an Israeli plane with a Star of David arrive in the U.S. full of supplies after a hurricane. Has Israel offered any assistance to the U.S. insofar as technology to protect our border with the missile defense shield President has discussed? In other words, this seems like a one-way relationship. It seems like you want and want and want and take and take and take, and there's no give in this relationship. Better is to give than to receive. You're not giving anything. You might as well poke him in the eye and call him a greedy bastard. I'm not sure that's the right tone to take, Mr. Kirk. I'm not sure that's the right tone to take at all if you're trying to stay alive. Israel needs to better portray itself as a member of Team Humanity. In other words, you don't exactly exude humanity, sir. You don't. When people think of humanity, they don't think of you. Now, these are the words of Charlie Kirk, not your humble host. Don't take it out on me, YouTube. Don't take it out on me, commenters. I'm just quoting Charlie Kirk. I'm providing context for some of the things he said. Don't rely on non-Israeli social media influencers to create all these clips. Okay. So you don't want to create the clips? That's fine. We don't need you then. Bottom line is Israel needs to learn to fish and be more self-reliant when it comes to your communications. Another way to say this is, I'm tired of building your roof. I know you paid me to build the roof, but it's hot. Hot out there. Sun's beaming down, guys. It's July in Phoenix. You want me to climb up there with asphalt shingles and start nailing stuff down? Mr. Prime Minister. No, sir. I've had enough of this. It's too hot. It's too hot out there. I don't want to be on that roof anymore. You need to get on your own roof if you want a roof. And by the way, while you're up there, the neighbor also needs a roof. Show some humanity, sir. Come on. Seriously. Why are you only building your own roof? For God's sake, neighbor's roof is falling in. Get on it. What are you waiting on? That's how I interpret this letter. That's how I see this letter. Iran. Here, now we get to the nitty gritty. Israel could do a better job explaining the Iranian threat. Among the many conservatives who support Israel, there's a concern that America could become entangled in a quagmire in Iran. My generation grew up with the disasters in Afghanistan and Iraq. Ladies and gentlemen, those disasters were on his behalf. I don't think he wanted to hear them called disasters. I think they worked out quite nicely for him. He didn't have to lose very many people, if any. It didn't cost him any money. Win-win. Win-win from where he sits. Why are you calling it a disaster? Aren't you being paid to support him? I mean, let's just be honest. We were promised there were WMDs in Iraq, which proved to be a lie. Uh-oh. Where do you think that lie came from? Who do you think was the first to promote that lie on American soil? I would suggest to you it was the recipient of this letter. He just called him a liar. Now, you can read this letter and you could try to fluff it up and act like, oh, Charlie was just saying how much he loved Prime Minister and he just wanted them to succeed. That's what this letter was all about. He just loved them so much. No, he's telling them they're inhumane and liars. That's what he's telling them. You are an inhumane liar, sir. Our generation was also lied to by the governments of Israel and the U.S. that COVID vaccines were safe and effective. That's him again. He's calling him a liar on that point as well. Israel intelligence missed the boat on October 7, but we're asked to trust intelligence 100% that Iran is on the cusp of obtaining nuclear weapons. He was in power when they missed the boat on that. The guy you're writing the letter to was the guy who missed the boat. He was the Israeli intelligence. Guys, he's not holding back here. This is not a love letter. This is a poke in both eyes. Beep, beep. This is like Three Stooges stuff, but we don't know if he made that dorsal fin, right? This is a tough letter. This was written in May. It was written in May. He was dead in September. This is a tough, tough letter. We don't believe that you're competent. We believe you lie to us, and we don't trust you anymore. Those are tough words. Those are tough words when you've made your money, when you've made the bulk of your income from this guy's political coalition. Right now, it seems like Israel's primarily relying on Americans to make the case for attacking Iranian nuclear site. Yeah, that's what he's paying you the big bucks. Get on it. What are you waiting on? Many agree with you, myself included, that Iran should not get nuclear weapons. At the same time, I share the concern that America will get sucked into another endless war, costing thousands of American lives. Where are the Israelis who are arguing their case to win over public opinion? Israel should be making its case 24/7 on social media, including long-form podcasts and social media channels and websites. Charlie? With all due respect, I'm just sitting here as the Prime Minister. May I assume his role for a second? Hold on, trim the horns down. Charlie, with all due respect, get back on the roof and finish the job I paid you to do. Finish the job we paid you to do. Get back on the roof now. I think that's what the August phone call in the Hamptons was. You going to get on the roof? Because if you're not going to get on the roof, there have to be consequences. I can't let someone talk to me this way. Like any political campaign, you need surrogates who can articulately promote this candidate's platform and identity. Talking about Miss Israel. When a candidate is hit with negative campaign ads, the effective response is for the candidate to personally respond to the attack ads. Candidate doesn't just rely on surrogates to get the truth out. One of Israel's biggest, most fundamental problems is typically your pushback is in the third person voice. At the moment, you have some wonderful non-Israeli surrogates speaking on behalf of a candidate that has not defined herself. Again, talking about that. Israel has retreated from social media without a fight. How are you going to win over younger generations if you're starting out retreat on social media? Stop this retreat. Get in the information war fight. And this next line is where we really saw that Israel has increased its Hasbara budget by 20x times, which is great news. There's also hundreds of millions of dollars raised by private pro-Israel groups. Some of this money should be directed into creating pro-Israel original homegrown content. In other words, I don't want your money anymore. I'm tired, boss. I'm tired. It's hot up there on that roof in July. I appreciate that you paid me, but I can't get back up there, dog. Some of your money needs to be redirected in building your own roof. You need to direct it into things like ladders and asphalt shingles, nail guns, nails, gutters. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. I appreciate the money you paid me to this point. I don't want to do it anymore. You should perhaps consider reshaping your Hasbara department in more of a political campaign headquarters with campaign narrative experts. I've seen your IDF spokesman defend Israel standing at a dimly lit podium. This looks like a scene out of the 1970s, like some old Walter Cronkite clips of the TV news. In other words, not only do I want you to do it, you got to do a better job. The stuff you do is terrible. Oh, okay. That works. So I'm a liar, I'm inhumane, and I'm terrible at PR. Thanks. Appreciate your confidence. Take on some tough questions I get bombarded with on college campuses. Where are all the Israeli surrogates? Israel needs more first-person voices to defend her. Now he's yelling. He's yelling. That's all caps. Some of you send me comments in all caps. That's yelling, guys. It's yelling. Finally, the question is whether Israel has the willpower to step up its game in this information war. Might I suggest a few alternative words for willpower? Gumption, cojones, onions, acorns. His questioning is manhood. You guys aren't fighting your own wars. You're causing the U.S. to do it. You're not helping us with our issues here at our home and as a show of gratitude. You're earning no goodwill. It's like you don't even care what we think. You're paying me a lot of money to go out there and fight your battles on college campuses. I don't even know if you have the manhood in your genes to do this job, sir. Do you? Are you a man? That's a tough letter. From my vantage point, the status quo is not working. Israel's getting crushed on social media, and you're losing younger generations of America, even among MAGA conservatives. In my opinion, you're losing the information war, which will eventually translate into less political and military support from America. Well, if what you're telling me is you're building a bad roof because I hired you to do this job, you need to get up there and build the roof. We're up there building it. It's not going very well, boss. Well, then you need to fix it. Well, it's come to the point where I think the only person who can fix it is you. Yeah, but I'm not a roofer. I'm an accountant. I leave in the morning and I come back at 6 o'clock and I eat dinner and I go to bed. That's why I hired you to put the roof on. Yeah, but man, you should look up there. It's a disaster. I know. Trust me, I know. There's rain leaking in my bedroom. I know how big of a disaster it is. You need to fix it. No, boss. Changed my mind. Getting out of the roofing business. I don't want to be a roofer anymore. I'm telling you, boss, it's hot up there. The roof is in far worse condition than I anticipated when I got up there. I'm at the point now where I don't know how to fix your roof. Okay. Oh, and by the way, all the neighbors hate your roof and they hate you. And I don't think you have the manhood to build a roof, do you, old man? Mr. Counter, Mr. Bean Counter. You don't know how to build a roof, do you? You're just playing on your abacus all day with your slide rule, building spreadsheets and your ledgers. Okay, enough. I understand you don't want to build my roof, but you don't have to make fun of me on your way out quitting the job. You don't have to call my manhood into question just because I hired someone to build a roof. That is the context in which this letter was written. That's the context. That letter was sent on May 2nd. So again, let's build our little what's going on in the world of Charlie Kirk before he dies timeline. May 2nd, he sends letter to Bibi saying, you're not a man. You're abdicating your responsibility. I don't want to do this anymore. People hate you. You're inhumane. You're a liar. Anything else? Did I miss anything? And you're going to lose support going forward. That's May 2nd. Then we get the next month in June, the 12-day war. 12-day war ends. There's all these doom and gloom predictions, including from Charlie Kirk, that the 12-day war a war in Iran will be a disaster. He goes to the White House. He begs the president not to get involved. So it's not enough to just poke the prime minister in the eye, call him an inhumane liar and incompetent without manhood. That was in May. And in June, he's going directly into the White House, directly into the Oval Office to beg the president to disregard the wishes of the audience of the letter, the recipient of the letter he just sent. You know that guy? You can almost see the conversation. I don't think you should do this, sir. In fact, I sent him a letter. This guy begging you to bomb Iran. I sent him a letter just last month. I called him not a man, incompetent, lazy, inhumane, a liar, and a few other things. And he walks out of the Oval Office, and the president sides with the recipient of the letter, and he launches the bombs. The war only lasts 12 days. It ends quickly. In July, as evidence that this is not the only action planned, in July, they go to PBD and say, you want to run Iran? Run Iran? Iran has a leader. There's no war. You guys had a quick war. Now it's over. You told me you obliterated their nuke supplies. Why would we need to go? I mean, that was the whole justifiable reason to go in there in the first place, was to stop them from acquiring nuclear weapons. And we've done that. You promised us you did that. So no, I don't think I want to do that. But let me noodle on it for 90 days. Well, in those 90 days, that's July, May, letter, June, war, July, approach PBD, August, approach Charlie Kirk again. This is the context in which that phone call in the Hamptons took place. This is the context in which the offer took place, whatever that offer was. And Charlie said no. It was all allegedly, all through hearsay from Andrew Colvett to Candace, but this is the context in which that phone call took place. Charlie says no in August. That's early August. Mid-August, Charlie gets a strange question at a donor retreat. If you die, who's going to take over? Die? I'm 31 years old, healthy as a horse. I exercise, I run. What do you mean die? 31-year-olds don't drop dead, not without warning. Well, lo and behold, the very next month, just 3 weeks after that question, he did in fact drop dead without warning. I think it's reasonable to ask, did that letter have anything to do with the fact that he dropped dead without warning? Did the phone call in August have anything to do with the reason he dropped dead without warning? Did his walking into the Oval Office to oppose what was taking place in Iran have anything to do with why he dropped dead in September without warning? I think it's a reasonable question to ask. And in context, the answer starts to look like, well, maybe. I mean, I think you could draw a reasonable inference that might have something to do with it. Do you have any positive evidence? Well, no, I don't. I mean, what would positive evidence be? Someone admitting it? But I think we're allowed to speculate at this point and say, kind of looks like that's what was going on. Kind of looks like Charlie wanted out of the game. Now, keep in mind the consequences of losing a roofer and losing Charlie Kirk. That's where the analogy begins to really break down. Because if Charlie walks away from the donor money, he's still Charlie Kirk. He could still fire up a podcast. He can still write a book. He can still get speaking gigs. He can still walk into college campuses. He doesn't need the donor money at this point. He's become bigger than the donor money. You can pull it away from him and it will hurt a little bit. He might have to trim his staff size a little bit. You can pull a lot of it away from him. And crucially, you could collapse TPUSA down to nothing. But the influential voice that is Charlie Kirk, he would remain. They tried this with Tucker Carlson. Let's get rid of him at Fox News. Tucker Carlson's bigger now than he was. They tried this with Candace Owens. Let's get rid of her at Daily Wire. She's now bigger than she was. Imagine what would have happened if they tried it with Charlie Kirk. You get rid of him at TPUSA, you can't run that risk that he becomes bigger than he was. Imagine a Charlie Kirk podcast network where all he has to do now, he doesn't have to go meet with donors. He doesn't have to carry anybody's water. He just takes his influential voice on the air for an hour or two every day, puts on a show like Tucker Carlson, like Candace Owens, continues his investing, continues making relationships, continuing to get booked at speaking gigs. I don't think that's a risk anyone could take at that point. My roofer walking away is not really that big of a deal. I'll go hire another roofer. That roofer's not going to do me any harm. What's the worst he's going to do? Go tell other roofers that my roof sucks? Okay. Charlie Kirk is not your roofer. That's where the analogy diverges. Charlie Kirk walks away, he could do you a lot of harm. A lot of harm. So pulling his donor money away left him with no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. It wasn't a platforming dispute. It wasn't even a survival dispute. Charlie Kirk was going to survive. His name was too big. He was loved by too many people. Walking away from the pro-Israel cause was the death sentence. The damage he could do if he walked away. And what kinds of things might he say? Well, he gave a nice preview in that May letter. Inhumane, liar, intelligence failures, having America fight your wars for you. Sounds a lot like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Sounds a lot like Dave Smith. Sounds a lot like some really influential podcasters who caused them a lot of problems. And it would have added a very influential voice to that mix. No, it had to be more like the mafia, I'm afraid. You can't just walk away from the mafia. Why? You know too much. You can't just walk away from the pro-Israel cause, especially if you're influential, because turning would turn millions of people along with you. If Charlie Kirk walked away from the cause, walked away from TPUSA or transformed TPUSA, or maybe had to lean it and mean it a little bit because some of the money dried up. But if he walked away and he became a very prominent, influential voice that joined the cacophony of other very prominent, influential voices, growing this, and I don't know the word I'm looking, this anger, this frustration, it would really be problematic. Really, really be problematic. And it would cause tweets like this to perhaps not be as easily draftable, because maybe with Charlie Kirk fighting against it, this wouldn't work. This is an AIPAC tweet from today, after the elections yesterday. AIPAC congratulates the 21 pro-Israel candidates who won their primaries tonight in Florida, including several who defeated anti-Israel candidates determined to undermine the U.S.-Israel alliance. We congratulate pro-Israel incumbents, and then they list a bunch. With their victories, more than 254 AIPAC-backed candidates from both parties have now advanced to the November general election. These results demonstrate that AIPAC's nearly 7 million members are resolute in their determination to help elect pro-Israel leaders between now and November and in the many cycles ahead. It's headlines like that needed to be preserved. It's the status quo where that headline could even be drafted, where that political reality could exist. Because TPUSA supported a lot of those types of people. What if Charlie Kirk had been working against them? What if he'd taken his influence out on the road and said, you know what, guys, this is a danger. We've got a real problem on our hands. I'm not sure this is the path we need to travel. It would have been problematic. Now, quickly, I want to roll through some of these things that happened after the letter. In July, this is probably about the time they approached PBD about running Iran. This is after the 12-day war. This is before the August meeting in the Hamptons with Charlie Kirk. This is the end of July. A speech from the prime minister.
We have fought now a seven-front war. We have an eighth front, and that is the front and the battle for truth. And I can think of no one who can carry this battle alongside with us. No one who can do it better than you on this channel, than you, Paula, and our many Christian friends who must fight for our common values, who must stand up for the truth. And by standing up for the truth, you stand up with Israel. And you stand with the Jewish people against this abomination of falsehoods. We can win this war exactly as we win the seven-front war.
Does it sound like he's taking Charlie's advice? Does it sound like he's starting his own home front on this war? No. How are we going to win this eight-front war? You guys here in this room. You Americans. Paula, our Christian friends here in America. You're going to be the way we win this war. That's not at all what Charlie was recommending in the letter. Sounds like he disagreed. After that speech, we start getting a slew of FARA filings. This one from Genesis Consulting. Registrant proposes to provide to the Foreign Principles strategic communication support, content creation, and influencer outreach aimed at improving Israel's public image. These services will be carried out via a digital media, social platforms, and advisory support. Sounds like they began the process of outsourcing even more of their issues. Yeah, well, okay, you don't want to do it through TPUSA? Fine. We'll pay for it. I guess we don't need you, do we, Charlie? We'll just, you want us to do it? Fine. We'll pay for it. We'll just give the money to someone else. It's in that context that this tweet was drafted. This is from Harrison Smith, August 13th. I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. Okay. Charlie sends letter in May. 12-day war in June. Approach PBD in July to run Iran when there's no active conflict. July 27th, BB says we're starting an eighth front war. We're going to outsource it to you Christian influencers here in the United States. August 4th or 5th, Charlie declines the offer on the BB phone call. August 11, they file the first of the FARA reports saying that we're going to be one of the companies doing the outsource. Our company, Genesis Consulting, you can outsource to us. August 13, Harrison Smith says, I think they'll kill me. Quoting Charlie through hearsay. August 26th. 2 weeks before Charlie Kirk passed, we get this tweet, or we get a tweet about that date from the Beebster himself. Charlie Kirk was murdered for speaking the truth and defending freedom. A lion-hearted friend of Israel, he fought the lies and stood tall for Judeo-Christian civilization. I spoke to him only 2 weeks ago and invited him to Israel. Sadly, that visit will not take place. Should have gone to Israel. Maybe he'd still be breathing.